it's Junior Brown here, guys. I'm a software engineer with a lot of experience in implementing softwares as entrepreneur. And today I'm receiving this guy here, Paul Keeper. He's accounting manager for Tech System. And I want to pass the ball for you if you want to present yourself.
Hey, Junior. Appreciate you having me. I've been with Tech Systems, gosh, this is my sixth year now with Tech Systems, both in the capacity of account management and recruiting. More recently, returning to the recruiting role. And yeah, ultimately, if you're not familiar with Tech Systems, we are the largest staffing and services organization specifically for IT related positions in the U.S. And so, from that standpoint, I certainly am not the most qualified person at tech, and there are definitely people who have been here way longer and seen way more than I have, but
Come on, don't say
definitely
the word.
happy. I'm happy to share my perspective for whatever it is. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for accepting my invite, and I'm so excited to start that. So, as I was talking in the offline here, I would like to ask you about the World Cup. If you are watch, if did you watch any game, or how's it going for you?
I have actually. So I'm not, obviously I'm not the most educated on football as most of the world calls it, or soccer, but it's the World Cup. It's happening here, in the States and in the Americas, and so decided to tap in for the first time, and I gotta say, I get it. It's super fun. For somebody that's very much an outsider looking in. When there's real stakes in the games are actually a lot more exciting than I had originally anticipated. So, of course, I've seen the U.S. games, all of those, and some different games here and there. I've had an opportunity to watch. Most recently, last night, those two games back to back. Germany, sad
Yeah,
face
it's
for
fun.
them for sure. And then that crazy game that, frankly, I didn't stay awake all the way through. I did get the alerts this morning that Morocco did end up winning in PKs. I didn't see it myself. I'm not gonna lie. But it was pretty exciting otherwise. Some near misses from the Netherlands too. What about yourself? I mean, I look, I see, I see behind you. I know who your main team is. You guys are still alive, but how have you been enjoying it?
Yeah, I mean, we are Brazilians, so we watch it all the World Cup for all the games. We like to watch soccer everywhere. So I mean, we don't have that the same national team we had in the past, but we are always supporting the national team. We have good players, but this time I think will be tough. The French is coming so strong, and Portugal, England, Argentina. So we will continue rooting for that, but I don't think I mean, I will continue rooting for and believing that we can go to the finals, but my rational side is say, okay, yeah, probably other national teams are better than us for that.
Well,
So,
Norway's going to be a big test, I understand,
yeah,
coming up here. My wife's all of her family is from Haiti. And so we did see Brazil beat them down pretty
yeah.
handily. But look, they were just happy to be there, so they were psyched just to see them on that stage. But I do remember telling my father-in-law, I was like, "Look, I know you're a very proud countryman, but I think you guys are in trouble in this
Oh
game."
yeah, yeah. I mean, in Japan, we beat Japan yesterday, so I mean, yeah, we are excited for the next rounds, but let's see. I mean, I don't wanna to be much more excited than I am.
Same here. I mean,
So
look, it's U.S.
yeah,
men's national team, right? I like, I have no, I have no like pretend that they're gonna make some serious noise or win the whole thing. But I think if we can make it to like the final eight, I'd be pretty happy with that result.
Yeah, I agree. And for Brazil, we have five trophies, right? So we have five titles. So I believe everybody that is playing against Brazil, they respect it too much. But when you are in the pit, the things can come in differently about that. So I will continue rooting for Brazil, for US, of course, and for the South America national teams. But let's see.
Hey,
Let's see what comes next.
there we go, man. But it's the World Cup. Anything can happen. I really haven't seen any specific team that, like, look, of course, there's teams. France, of course, would probably be the prohibitive favorites. There's a lot of quality on their side, but I haven't seen anybody that it's like, oh my gosh, they're just washing anybody out. You get to the pitch, and then whatever happens, happens.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
So, and thank you again for accepting this. The last time we had a discussion offline, we discussed a little bit about AI and how AI is impacting our life, right? Because every single week we have a different episode of this novel of AI, and this fight against these big techs and how fast this is improving, and the concern that's coming up as well, and how we can live in this new world. So I was separated here some topics that we could try to, talking about. For example, how do you see this? Uh, because, for example, AI is handling the heavy side of the problem, like they having lifting off the problems. They are helping recruiters to focus on people while they are making some big background tasks and for example this resume automation AI can scan, rank, filters huge volumes of resumes for you, but at the same time how you are seeing the human side of the thing. How for you, Paul, you are seeing that? Because AI can help in all of this stuff, but where the people is entering in this context right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's important for me to contextualize my answer a little bit. It's like I certainly am not the biggest super user
Yep.
when it comes to like even here at our company. There are folks that are using it in smarter and more efficient ways than I am. But of course, I'm using it because it's a get in or get out type of thing for me. Like the efficiencies that it's able to bring you for a lot of the more repeatable tasks, uh, kind of like a lot of manual efforts I'm able to get out of there. So I don't do too much. We have a Copilot instance that we have
Hmm.
spin up with a number of specialized agents, as you mentioned, for resume reviews, putting together, like candidate information. Like internally, what we generally do is, we'll take resumes, we'll take professional references that we've done with certain candidates, and then we put all of that together in a marketing portfolio that we then send off to our clients in order to, for lack of a cleaner term, sell the person's profile, right, to them. And so AI has done, a lot tremendously there for me. But I think that what you're more directly asking is how we keep kind of a human in the loop, right?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
I think the fear that a lot of people have, very well founded, is that AI, companies are using AI to screen candidates. Candidates are using AI to kind of beef up their own resume. So there's a lot of potential there, not only for inaccuracies and hallucinations, but also, for discrimination, quite frankly, right? Because LLMs leveraging historical data, there can be a lot of issues there. So for me personally, my commitment is always being there in the review stage.
Hmm.
So obviously, if somebody sends me a resume, I'm going to try to optimize that resume as much as I can to make it most attractive to the hiring leader, but I still need to set a lot of really strong like guidelines and guardrails for the agent to make sure that it's not making anything up because that's going to make me look very bad, right? You know, on top of the candidate itself. Because my goal is not to push a resume through
Yeah.
only to the hiring leader. My goal is to actually get somebody a job, right? It doesn't make any sense for me to just
Yeah.
get submissions, right? The ultimate goal is to still have someone be successful in that job, not only to get the job. So I think the most important thing is I think you gotta keep a human in a loop throughout the process, like the initial conversation, like you and I had the other day, as well as really being there every step along the way. Like, yes, it's very convenient that AI compiled all of this information for me, but I got to make sure that it makes sense based on the conversation that we had, that I'm reviewing it all the way through, and that I'm guiding it step by step through the process. Because what I don't want to do, like I think you kind of alluded to there, is I don't want to be in a scenario where I'm eliminating a candidate from the pool
Yeah.
unnecessarily, or you know, I'm making a candidate's profile seem too good for an opportunity that's really beyond their ability. So I don't know if that fully answered your question, but you know, that's what I try to make a commitment to do is I'm using AI as a tool. It has to just be a tool. It's not true intelligence. It's not, you know, I don't want to replace myself, quite
Yeah. Of
frankly,
course. Yeah.
right? You know, in all of this process. So I do think it's important that ultimately it's humans making decisions. AI is helping them to make the decision. I don't know if that all makes sense.
No, yeah, I mean, I think he's a good mindset about that. I remember, for example, when I was make some interviews for Disney, they have Olivia, if I'm not say the wrong name, but Olivia is an agent that's making the first step before the recruiter call me. So Olivia will schedule, will say, hey, can you, make the interview tomorrow, next week, what day? And I say, okay, this day is perfect for me. So then that will connect with the recruiter and say, hey, this is done. This is all with you right now. And then the recruiter was call me, and then we will keep moving with the process there. So I believe agents like that is not replacing the work of the recruiter. This is just supporting them and say, hey, I'm not, answer questions for you. I'm just trying to anticipate some basic things that can be made by automation. And for example, you were speaking about to do not eliminate some candidate, and I remember one we talked before in the other meeting that we had offline, and I wanted you to bring up here again. You told in the past a lot of candidates was receiving calls from recruiters like 3, 4, 5 times in a day, and that's what making saturated this behavior from the recruit between the recruiter and the people, the candidates. And today is the opposite. Like the candidate is looking for the position, right? And but that is more complicated to be visible sometimes. Sometimes that guy is pretty good, for example, in marketing, but he's not pretty good preparing a better resume or explain himself about that. And in the past, I believe you, and of course you probably still have that. You had systems where you were create a big database with these talents, and you were filtering and find that guy and looking for and call them. But today, how do you see this change of behavior from the market, where the recruiter now is waiting for the candidate, not the opposite as in the past?
You know, I will say, so it's very interesting that you brought that up because I do recall that. I recall hearing that directly from many candidates when I first started. I mean, especially, you know, the early days of COVID. Like, first of all, you know,
Yeah,
COVID,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, threw everything on its head, right? You know, when that happened, you know, in terms of the job market. But even then, when the job market was relatively lessened, especially so in the bounce back in, I guess that would have been 2021, if memory serves, candidates would tell me all the time, oh my gosh, it's another call from a recruiter. I'm getting 5 or 6 outreaches a day. That's pretty close to the number that I kind of always heard. To your point, that's your experience is very different now, and I am hearing that from other folks. There seems to be less desire from our competitors in this industry to just make that human-centered phone outreach, right? You know, you get automated texts a lot of times. You probably have seen those. Likely you get a lot of like LinkedIn outreaches, and of course this has to be a part of it. It's something that I do all the time today. Even I sent a bunch of LinkedIn messages this morning. That's always going to have to be a part of it. And again, the automation really helps in terms of kind of 10xing your ability to reach out to people. But personally, if you ask me, maybe it's just me, I'm old school in this regard. I still believe the best thing to do is find a phone number of somebody. That's how I came across you,
Exactly.
Junior, is, find a phone number of somebody that we've spoken to before, that we know has either been, responsive to us in the past, or maybe has even worked for us in the past, and just have a brief conversation. I still think that even though maybe the industry seems to be moving away from that, for a more, um, I don't know what is the best word to say this, like high efficiency, high touch model. I still believe in the old school way that it's like, hey, pick up the phone. I believe in zagging when everybody else is zigging, right? It's like, okay, if everybody was flooding the zone with a bunch of calls 6 or 7 years ago, maybe the text message or automated outreach, be more convenient for candidates. Now I feel like it's almost the opposite, where the zone is being flooded with a bunch of LinkedIn outreaches and text messages. Maybe candidates will appreciate even more now the personal touch of, hey, I thought well enough of you to actually give you a call. That really shouldn't be, I think, a novel concept, but maybe it is these days. It's weird how we've come full circle there.
No, I totally agree. I mean, and I see how to for some people to find yourself in this new world. They try to, for example, when you apply for a job by LinkedIn, 5 minutes later you have 1,000 applications, and you say, how I will compete with agents. It's so complicated. It's not fair for the candidate. It's not fair from the people that will review that needs to filter that and take the decision, the hard decision, because mainly when you put, for example, this is a remote position. So, but I believe in some positions you are saying, hey, I want a remote position, but I want someone close to me, because I don't wanna ignore people that is outside of US. But I'm just say at some point should be good if you can bring up this professional to the offices some days and say, hey, come here, let's talk with each other. But if you have someone outside of the US, it's complicated, right? But you are competing when you are applying, when you put remote there. This is so complicated. This is hard to be visible, because you'll be in a sea of a lot of resumes, and it's so hard to be visible and cross this AI system or whatever another systems to filter that. And I will introduce another question for you about how do you filter that, because uh, um, in some cases you have people that they are not so good to provide a good resume, but in the other hand you have maybe not the perfect professional, but they create the perfect resume. And they will, how will you filter that? How do you detect that? Oh, this candidate here is not telling me the truth. This guy is just, making some, making up here, but it's not exactly what I want.
Junior, when you find the perfect way to filter through all of that, um, I want you to start your own company, and I will join you the very next day. Because
There is no answer for
because
that,
that's a
right?
multi-million dollar idea. All right,
Yeah.
there isn't a perfect way, really. There are. So I mentioned some things before, like of course, tried and true methods, like professional references that we verify, like through a phone call, LinkedIn. Nothing is perfect. We do technical screenings to validate things on professionals' references being true. But again, ultimately, the way that I view it is we are imperfect people in an imperfect industry, trying to make the best possible match that we can make. And honestly, these are statistics that I used to quote years ago. And honestly, I don't have those facts, those updated facts and figures in front of me, but I am quite certain that it's even more extreme now. It used to be that the average hiring leader would get well over 200 applicants to each one of their postings. And so certainly, that's way more than they ever need for one position, right? And that's hard enough to filter through. But the average hiring leader felt that at least half of the resumes they saw contained falsehoods. Okay. So, you combine those factors and you can see why hiring managers would be a little bit hesitant, right? When it comes to um, who they see in front of them. Oh, I see this amazing resume, but are they really good? So ultimately, at Tech, the way that we try to solve for that the best that we can is doing that due diligence on the front end. And some candidates will find it honestly kind of tedious, like, hey, I'm not even interviewing for a job yet, and you're asking me for professional references, and you're asking me to do some sort of technical screening. Well, yeah, it is, and I feel bad sometimes because it takes real time, right? It's not easy to reach out to people in your network and prepare yourself for a tech screening. But when you know what you're up against, like you said, geez, it could be 1,000 now, right? For all we know, in terms of applicants for these positions, you have to separate yourself in some kind of way, and we at least go to our clients with the knowledge that, hey, we've done all of the legwork on Junior that we can possibly do. We've done everything we can to validate that his skills are very good. People from his previous employers really vouched for him, and he was willing to take a tech screening. So we can help break down those walls that hiring leaders might have initially to say like, hey, I know you got 300 resumes. Let's just make up a random number. But these three candidates we vetted beforehand that you can be very confident to talk to. So that's the way that we solve for it. But there isn't a perfect way. Long story short, and AI can do a lot for us in terms of saving us time on the front end. But it's never going to replace that specific problem in that you can get as many applicants as possible to the same job description, and like you said, AI will make that even faster. But building that trust factor on a human to human basis with a hiring leader that he actually really should interview these people, um, that's the way that we try our best to really advocate for our candidates on that front.
And I'm not saying like people from outside of the U.S. cannot work remotely here. I'm just saying like in some opportunities I see uh, that's very clear in the system. Say, hey, this guy needs to live in the specific city. But even so, because that is remote, you receive a lot of candidates. So for filtering that, that can be so tough, right?
And Junior, I apologize because I did not. You're right. I didn't address that specific problem space of the remote. Yeah, you're right. There's less remote jobs now, relatively speaking, to when, like you want to talk about peak COVID or the preceding years that followed, where there was a lot of expanding and contracting in the remote work space. There's definitely less remote roles now, so it's even more competitive to get a remote opportunity. So obviously, you have to beef up your profile from that standpoint. But that's just the reality, like you said. Of course, it doesn't mean that anybody living outside the US couldn't do the job just as well. But when companies feel like they have that control, they feel like it's a quote unquote buyer's market, they would rather have somebody in their backyard, right? Because a lot of these companies do have RTOs, um, where they want people back in the office. So even these remote roles, we see it all the time here where, yes, they can sit remote and we will consider everyone for this role, wink. But they're really going to be looking for. I mean, I happen to live in Orlando. They're going to be looking at folks, in the local area for sure, whether it says remote or not. They will, whether they say it exactly like that or not. They're going to give preference to people that could come into the office when eventually they will call people back into the office. That's just been my experience.
Oh, yeah, I want to conclude here this conversation that we have, and I would like you to bring up your perspective for the next. I know the future is a little unknown, but how you are seeing that, at least for this year? I know the things are coming up so fast, and Anthropic just released it, Fable and OpenAI released the version of Sol, Terra, and Lua. So, do you see what? How do you see that? Do you see from the perspective of the end of the world, or do you see from the perspective that these AI tools can help on us somehow to improve? And of course, we will make mistakes, but in the future, we probably will try to use it to that, and living with that decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I'm new in sharing this opinion. I don't think there's going to be anything groundbreaking here. AI is going to be here to stay as a tool. Too many companies have made too many investments, frankly. And look, a Pandora doesn't go back in the box, so to speak, right? Like we know how powerful these tools can be, and people are relying on them, I think, too much sometimes, in my opinion. But they're relying on them more and more, to really either automate certain workflows or just really like multiply their production, because that's the whole thing about these companies and corporations. AI in many ways in a perfect world could be a way that it's like, oh man, I can do my same work and get more time for myself. But of course, that's not what it is, right? They just want the same person doing much more work. So it's not going away from that perspective. But if you're asking me my opinion, personally, over the next, let's call it, it's 2026, by the time we're sitting here in 2030, I think there's going to be a little bit of a retraction for certain things that we're using AI for now. Because I think that as we get smarter about when and where to use the technology and what it's really good for, and what it can really do to help kind of streamline the recruiting process, I think that we're going to figure out some of the things that it's not good for. I do think that this is still a person to person industry, and so I think that as the use of this tool is just going to expand, I think it'll eventually reach like a point break of like, okay, this is stupid. We have candidates that are using AI to beat your interviews. We have hiring managers that are using AI to decide on candidates, and so it's AIs talking to AIs. And I think that once we kind of realize that and get to that point, I think that maybe this is wishful thinking on my end, but I think we will find a middle ground at some point. I do think that it's being used in a lot of great ways right now, but I also think that it's being used for some functions it really shouldn't be used for, frankly, right now. So I hope, wishful thinking again, I happen to be a pretty positive person, that in the first 5 years we're experimenting with it. In the next 5 years, we kind of realize like, okay, there are still certain areas of this business where you need to have a human touch. Um, and ultimately, AI is a decision tree tool. It doesn't use judgment. It can't use judgment. And at the end of the day, judgment is the most important thing in this business.
I agree, totally agree with you. And I mean, I would like to say so. Thank you for accepting again. You have this nice conversation. I think
This was a
that
lot of
can.
fun.
Yeah, I mean, I told you we don't want to use it too many formalities. We want to have a conversation like if we were in a bar. So I believe this is the way people can understand it better, and I hope that this can help somebody somehow to be immersive in this new world. And if you want to have some final comments to tell the people how they can enter in the website of your company and how they can apply for jobs. So it's all with you.
Junior, I thank you again. This was a really nice break in my day. I hope that my perspective was helpful or resonated at all with people. But ultimately, simply just the opinions of one man and not reflective of the company. But anybody that is interested in working with us can go to techsystems.com and look at all of our job postings on there. I will be very frank that some of those are still viable. Some of those are old, but if you do apply there, we are alerted here and we can find you. And if you want to talk to me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Paul Kiefer. I'm not going anywhere. It's the same old tired headshot that I took, I think, when I first started in 2020 behind my house. So, you can anybody can reach out. I'm always happy to network and start a conversation around the industry. So once again, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you are very welcome, and I hope we can, schedule another meeting in the future and we can have another conversation about other topics. So, thanks so much. It was a very nice conversation. I hope you
Yeah,
have a
absolutely.
wonderful week, my friend. Take care.
Hey, you too. You have a great week and a happy 4th of July.
Same for you. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye now.